Okay, my friends, this is going to be a lot of fun. Before I even start, if you know anybody that does documentary films or is a filmmaker, have them contact me, Roger, R-O-G-E-R, at mudfossils.com. It's open for, I want a bunch of people to do videos on this stuff. There's like videos, 100 people could do them. I have so much stuff on this now that it's embarrassing, it's so much. Now, they call these things concretions. They have no clue what they are. They're just concretions. They just pop out of the earth and they just cluster like this. Absolutely not. What you just saw that they call concretions are these little stone balls, and they are the anchor attachments for your skin so that it can move around and stretch and come back. That's what these fluid-filled bags do, so your skin can do all that. Now, these fluid-filled spaces and these balls are what creates a layer between your skin and what they call the basement layer. What I just showed you was all those balls have eroded down, the skin's gone. The basement layer was underneath. End of story. Now, these are what they call concretions. The one I just showed you, those balls were, I don't know, maybe this big around, that big around, whatever. They come much bigger. And this is all biological, 100%. You see that? That is skin and the tissue. The balls are eroding from the interstitium, and then they are laying here. And the reason they're eroding because the ocean is washing it away, all of the muddy stuff, and it's all creating mud and sand and so forth. And that's what creates our sedimentary layers. But when you see stuff like this, that's the interstitium. Now, this is on some glacier, and as the glacier melts, the interstitial balls fall through, that's all. They're covered with moss because moss, these things are nothing more than literally meatballs. That's what the moss is living off of this stuff. It's a biological, organic stuff. You boil those and you could, I'm telling you something, you could eat these during a famine. I'm serious. I mean, you wouldn't eat them as rocks, but you might be able to boil them and eat what came out of them. Something's eaten. Whatever's in there, something is. The moss is eating it, so there's something in there of value. If you think I'm kidding, they are everywhere because the Earth is 100% biological. These stone balls are everywhere, and they take on different structures. Some of them have eggshell shapes. Some of them have like supports inside of them. I'm just going to go down the whole list. I got a zillion pictures of them. You see how they embed in the flesh? That is literally was flesh. And they're eroding away, and there's the balls. That is literally flesh. I'm serious. You should see what Tyson has. Oh my God. And those are another type that was eroded in a different condition in a different place. Here they are. There's a whole batch of them just like that. That was from some skin layer of interstitium. Now there is other tendon balls, and I'm going to show you that too. So, now look at that. I don't know. That was in some chemistry that invaded that outside layer and infused it with copper or something like that. Some of them have the holes in the center, complete holes, and they have this here. They call that chert flint, that type of thing on it, because that's very, very, very tough stuff. Something like this. These are anchor balls, and these straps come in, and they feed them. They have to have blood. Everything has to have blood, and there's a vein and artery going into that thing. Here's the kids playing, and this is one that has these little square jobbers in them, or not square necessarily, but they're geometrical patterns inside, and they have a different stuff. And the Chinese used to make plates out of these. They'd cut them and make plates. But you can see they're all over the beach. The kids are playing on them. They know what they are. Tendon ball, kid. Be careful. This was a friend of mine said, well, this is Chaco Canyon. I believe that's exactly made out of tendon balls. And they made all of those structures out of what was here on Earth. There's a whole cluster of them. All right. I got so much on this, it's embarrassing, really, that nobody in the world that should be paying attention is paying attention. Now, I originally thought that was a tendon ball, but now I think that is a dragon's eye. And the reason I think so, or some kind of an eyeball, you see the way it tapers over this way and it tapers over this way, and then you see how many layers. That's what is in the layers of lenses of eyeballs. And the reason there's so many layers is because every one of them gives you a different diffraction of the light to give you a different color, really. So that, I think, is an eyeball. Look at this sucker. Filled with sand. Gigantic. See, there's more of them here. They're all over the place. The Earth was just, the creatures that were on the Earth, there's nobody in their right mind could ever have assumed that this is true. Until you do enough research, and then you can't deny it. But you have to do the research, and they refuse to even look. And I understand it's just very, very difficult to comprehend that this is possible. You see that? That's blood. I told you, there's blood in all of them. You can find this. You see that moss is growing. It grows where there is blood. Kavish? You find blood or moss, you know, there's, okay, here's one that my buddy sent me, Lee Evans. Lee Simpson. That, I don't know what happened there, but I can tell you what's going on. There's an anchor here and an anchor here going out to some kind of muscle or tendon or whatnot. Lily Lavender sent me this. This looks identical to Iapetus. I'm not kidding you. And Iapetus is also, well, here it is. Oh no, that's the one that looks like Iapetus. I'll show you Iapetus. All right, some of them have this. And it depends on, first of all, it depends on where the tendon ball or interstitium ball was in the body. How big the body was. And where it was in the chemistry and how much invasive aqueous solutions went through there and what it did. It's something called nucleophilic substitution. Whoa, what a big word that is. No, not so big. All it means is substitution. You know what substitution means. You have something there and you put something else there. You substitute it. Well, whatever this flesh was, you have other little molecules that come along and they say, ooh, I like that. That looks like a good place to push that guy out of, because we have the chemistry to push him away. So these little nucleophiles, they come in and get out of here, and they leave. And they replace them with whatever this chemistry is of that nucleophilic invader. All right? That's called stability. All it is one chemistry is going to come in and take over the other chemistry, and then it's going to become stable at some point. Or at some point, it never becomes stable. It just depends. Look at that. There was a strap coming out of there. See that? And there's balls all over here. This was skin. That was literally skin. When you talk about kaolin clays, kaolin clay is a real fine, powdery clay. And it comes in the exact same colors as skin. All right, now opals are a different situation. Opals are invaded by transition metals into silicates. I'm working on opals right now. I'm going to make some. What is this? I think this is like, look at this. Do you see the size of that? I think these are also, I mean, it's just beyond imagination. All right, there's a stone ball that is one of those styles that locks in and it has these little anchors. And whatever it is, I'm not certain, but it comes out and to a stalk that attaches to something. But these little anchors here, Comet 67P is one of these. I'm not kidding you. And the jets shoot right out from where the blood is in it, because there's going to be blood in there that services the tendons and the little fibers that shoot out of it. Well, when the sun hits it in just a certain way down into those tubes, and you can see them, there's little holes going down in there, and they call the inside of them, they say, well, there's little dragon balls in there. The dragon balls are blood. The blood is coming out into those tubes, which are the arteries, and then it's being burnt off, just like it was being burnt off in a gas grill. There's just no combustion because there's no oxygen to speak of. All the astronauts say that it smells like steak. It's how they go out of their spacesuits and they come back in, they take the suit off and they say, sirloin. I'm telling you, we just missed everything. I remember I told you about the Chinese. They make the plates out of those stone balls. They cut them like that, and that's where those kids were playing in those little things here. Now these are kind of strange. This here, I have no clue. These look like some kind of, I don't know, like a cantaloupe or something. I have no idea. I'm telling you, the Earth is, there's so many things to look at. Why don't we look at them? Remember that one there? That's the stone balls. This is a mud. Well, what is mud? Mud is nothing more than flesh. It's nothing more than red, bloody flesh. That's all it is. And I have a whole analysis of from mud going all the way up to CaCO3, which is calcium carbonate's tendons. So you go from the mud, which is the bloody, fleshy, kaolin clays, up into the marl, which is your organs and your, connective tissues and all that stuff, all the way up until you hit your tendons, which is really the heavy-duty limestone. Got a lot on this. I need somebody to do I need somebody to come along with me and get this out into the public. And there's so many ways to go on this. Plus, I have a lot of stuff that isn't just this. It's just amazing. This has just been overlooked and forgotten. It is, well, no big mystery, but we don't really care. We'll just make up anything we want to make up and make the kids pay them. And then they make them, force them to say what they say. If they don't say them, they fail them. You see this? They cut slabs here. Well, they did that thousands of years ago, too. Here's another stone cutter. This is what they did. Well, they cut these slabs back in the ancient times. I could prove that. You think I can't prove it? Think again. You see this? Fuerte de Sampiata, Bolivia. Now, why doesn't, like the people down there that are doing all their excavations and this and that, nobody's talking about, not a single word. They cut slabs of wet flesh. This was wet flesh. You see this? These were tank treads. This was designed, this machine, to work in this environment, cutting these slabs to build the walls, which I will show you right now. Now, why doesn't the people down in Peru, and I don't want to point out anybody specifically, but Brian Forrester's down there, and he's working down there. I know that they've been just ignoring him, and so he's just been literally shut up. Now, I don't know if he wants to talk about it or not, but I would think he would. Why wouldn't he want to talk about this? And anyway, I'm not going to pester anybody. All right, you see that? This, my friend, is tendon. And that is one of those machines. And these are the slabs that they cut. Now, I'm not sure how they did it, whether they had a crane coming over and how they moved them when they were wet and putty-like, but then they took them in the back, and here's what they did with them. You see that? These are the walls that they cut those slabs out of. Now, they're going to run into bone and blood. You see that? That's a piece of bone. And the blood running out of it, it's right there. This is a blow-up of that piece. Now, they really want the tendon primarily. Muscle, tendon, that's where really the tendon is what you want. And this wall was not well done. I mean, this must have been a pour into town for sure. Look at this thing. The thing's ready to fall apart right there. Now, maybe it was a training area. Maybe they were training them how to do it here. Because this is not characteristic of the work they did. And whenever you saw those bumps on here, well, let me show you. All right, there's other tendons that were flat mats, and they had little straps running over, and then the balls would in place, and then the strap could pull and come back and forth, and the balls would stay. This, you see, if you could see up in there, you see that little, I mean, what was in here was biology. You see the little crease right in there? That strap ran over to a ball. I'll show it to you. And this looks like it was a test wall. They were trying to figure out what the best way to do it is. Leave the bumps, take the bumps away, take the fascia away, leave it half and half. I mean, to me, that's a test wall. All right, this is the limestone. This is a CaCO3. That is a tendon. And they cut these slabs and they moved them back and they made these walls down here. And I've seen it in many places down there. I haven't actually been there, but I understand the chemistry that's coming out and leaching out, which is the chemistry, the biology of blood. Just so you understand, these are the tendon fibers, and they are tough as hell. And whenever they show you, they say, oh, that's lava columns. No, they're not. They're tendinous calcium carbonates. And they say, oh, no, that's from calcium carbonate from volcanic activity. No. Problem with geologists is there's like 3 words that they know that cover everything. Feldspar is everything. And feldspar that's not feldspar, that's a goose head. That's not feldspar, that's a bone. I have everything around here that's not feldspar. It's everything is biology. So all of the fascia is feldspar. All right, so forget that. That one's off the table. And there's a couple other ones they use. One of them is volcanic. Everything's a volcanic dike, a volcanic tube, a volcanic this, a volcanic... All of this stuff, it's all nonsense. It's all biology, 100%. Now, there is volcanism, 100% yes. Why is there volcanism, Roger? Well, the reason there is volcanism is because of decomposition. What is decomposition, Roger? Well, it's the same as if you took a bunch of manure, literally, which is the guts, and the bowel, and the digestive system, and the intestines, and then you covered it up and you let it ferment. And then all of a sudden, every now and then, it would just overheat itself from the decomposition. Boom! It pops, it goes dormant. More decomposition, boom. When it comes out of there, it doesn't come out of there as poop. It comes out of there as things that were burnt off, and the more heat you put into something, the more cheap molecules go away. All your really low end stuff goes away, and you end up with some minerals and metals and all these things, and they have no clue what they are. So I don't even know how they justify volcanism anymore. It's so silly. Now wait till you see what this attaches to. These attach to balls, which I showed you a bazillion of them, and I'll show you this. All right, there's the tendon enthesis. That's how they grow. Those where the straps are. Some of them end up with these extremely cool fibers inside, which are the crystal fibers, which you see in the crystal caves in Mexico. Once all of the other stuff erodes away, the matrix, and you're left with the mineral, because the mineral is tougher than the other stuff that surrounds it. Boom! You're left with these cavities filled with gigantic crystals. That, my friend, is a strap and a tendon ball. This right here was the layer of flesh. That has eroded away. This is a little more tough. That stays. You see tendon balls, tendon balls, tendon balls. They're all over. Let me show you what that looks like when it was alive. All right. Remember I showed you those walls, and I said I thought they were test tendon walls, and they were these flat mats, and they had the little breaks right here. And I said there was a strap coming out and a ball attached. Well, this is what they do. This is called, like, it's a little finger trap. And the strap goes through the trap, and the ball anchors below. What does that happen? This is an injury. This sucker is very sore. That's supposed to be locked into that anchor spot. Now, what happened was this pulled out. Now, how does this work? Well, that ball is supposed to be locked. Oops, you can't see there, can you? Let's come down this way. All right, that ball is supposed to be completely fused to this layer. The strap can go in and out as the strap pulls back and forth. A muscle will be attached to this, or usually these flat ones are on your, abdomen and places like that. Other tendons have the muscles run down, and then you have a whole batch of like a bundle of fibers, and that runs to a ball. Well, let me show you. But anyway, you understand what we have here. These are these straps we're seeing all over. These are the flat walls, and a lot of these tendons, they drove up and cut slabs out of them. Other tendons were, well, I'll show you the other types. All right, that's the type of tendons we're seeing being cut, where they're driving those machines up there and cutting the slabs. Very, very, very solid tendinous material. This is the best. You have other tendons that run inside the muscles and so forth. Not nearly like this. This is the best tendon you have, and this is like an Achilles anchor bone, you know, in the foot. And there's a very, very heavy-duty tendon coming out of there. That's a beauty. Now, remember this. That was what I just showed you, the calcaneus Achilles tendon. This is the Achilles tendon right here, and they have all those little hex fibers. They are not, and you see them coming out of the ground because these guys died standing up in the mud in the flood. So their feet are like this, or up to here, let's say, and then you see all of these fibers sticking out like you do at Devil's Tower. That's a guy's foot, no question whatsoever. If that is looked at carefully, there's no question whatsoever is what it is. Now, and then on top of that, you'll see the wrinkle. The wrinkle where they always break. There's an abrupt transition. When these guys were standing up like this in the flood, and they drowned or they starved to death or whatever, they were still in an upright position for many, many months or years or whatever, however long it took before they just eroded away and fell over. And at Devil's Tower, you can see the eroded body out in front of it. It's all over the place. It's in a crosshatch, red, bloody. I've shown it many, many times. All you have to do is look for the wrinkle at the top of the tendon and the hex fibers, and then you know you are at a tendon that had an abrupt transition. It broke, and that's because they are always under tension. Tendon tension. You see, I showed you clusters of tendons before. They lock into the bones, and these are all these anchors. And every one of them has a strap. The strap turns into one of those little hex fibers. Now, there's different areas where you have different types of emplacements. There's bones, there's muscles, there's, you know, your stomach areas, and there's interstitium balls, there's tendon balls, there's anchors that are specific to specific areas in your body, and they have specific chemistry and specific geometry. I'm serious. They're all, not all different, but there's a lot of differences. A lot of differences. You see, this is what happens to these tendon balls. This is where you have the mineralization. Then you have what's called I call it abrupt transition. I'm not sure who calls it what, but I do. And it's abrupt. It just breaks like that. That's where you get these balls. Then eventually the straps come. Now the straps are fibrous, very fibrous, and here's some right here. Here's one right here that would have been just like that. The ball would have been over here. You see? And there was another ball attached. I showed you they come in clusters, and that's where the trap is that it would have slid through. Anyway, you see all of those little white fibers? Oops. See those white fibers? That's these fibers here. Let me show you another one I have here. This one was in different chemistry. This is another tendon fiber, and that, I mean a tendon ball. That's the ball. Now, it's, you know, not really too pretty, but that was the ball. Now, this one though, you see all those little spots inside here? These are all holes. Instead of having this one, it was in a different chemistry than this. Now, I'm not sure whether this was a different style tendon ball or not. I don't know. But I do know that it was in some kind of different chemistry that ate away whatever this fiber was. So it had to have some molecular structure in the waters that this was sitting in, whether it was salty or acid or whatever, that ate away whatever that particular molecule was, because it took it from everywhere. They're gone from everywhere. You see, I don't know if you can see all of it, but that's what it did. The white spots in here are still here. All right, so there's so much to look into it, and it's just being avoided. I can't believe it. And the kids are paying for geology and archaeology and history and all of the things that they're paying them to teach them. And it's just nonsense, absolute nonsense. And they know this. There's nobody that can deny that I am not what you would call demure. I'm a loudmouth, and I don't care. I would be unemployed. I would be on welfare in the street somewhere if I was trying to make a living and saying the things I'm saying. I don't care. My living's over. I'm just ready to stop breathing, to be honest with you. You know, life is going to go on until it stops. But that, I'm not too worried about that. Everybody stops. I want to know what life was about before it stops, because I think that makes a difference to how the next series of events happens in a person's existence. I don't think you just die and you're done. Case is closed, you turn it to dust. If you believe that, well, you might as well just go insane and just do anything you want, and you know, which, you know, pretty much I do. But I don't hurt people. I don't want to hurt. You know, there was a time in my life I couldn't care less about anybody else but myself. Now I understand. I understand. There's a lot more to life than just me. At this point, I think I feel that way, and it's quite obvious. But anyway, I think I have showed enough to present just an absolutely undeniable case that this has to be looked into. It has to be looked into. Now, and I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to show you something right now, and this is disturbing as hell. Now, this goes back over 5 years ago. I personally, myself, discovered the mud fossils in my yard, in my property. And I personally, myself, extracted the samples and bagged them up, double bagged them in plastic bags, and sent them off to the lab to be tested. And they came back as human mitochondrial DNA. Now, I was the one that harvested it. I say they are from giants. These guys never said they were from giants. And guess what happened? Apparently, he's being attacked. This was the DNA report. There's no question. I paid for it. They did it. They did a good job. And the report is very comprehensive. And this was the first human DNA from ancient DNA that I know that was done in the world. And I think they did a fabulous job. And now, 5 years later, as I am going forward, see, Homo sapien mitochondrial, Homo sapien mitochondrial D. This is not, and he's a certified lab, nice guy too. But apparently they're attacking him, because I got a note from him saying, hey, you know, you keep doing this, I'm going to give legal action against you for talking that I'm telling people that it's giants. I said, I never once ever said you claimed they were giants. I said, you claimed they were human. That's what it says. It's exactly what it says. And there were 3 samples. Now I'm going to show you the samples. 36-inch tip, the lung, and the mud tip. Here's the mud tip. Well, here's the lung. I mean, it's a lung. It's a damn lung. And I was the one that extracted it. And I took it from in here. I drilled a hole down in here. Where this is all blood. All right, then we took the other one. There's one right here. This was the fingertip. That's a fingertip. And I had an anatomist look at it. I had a CAT scan. I had all that stuff done. So the lab is not the one saying it. Anyway, I took the blood out from inside an artery up in here somewhere. Anyway, now this is, and that's the bottom of the tip of the fingertip. And that's where the tendons anchor. And if you had it in the right, well, in the CAT scan, I've shown this so many times. It's really, really distressing at this point. And then I had a gigantic, gigantic, gigantic fingertip, which I'll show you. You see that? That is the fingernail. That is the bone at the back of the finger thumb. I think it's a thumb. And this part here I broke off to get the fingerprints, which are fingerprints right here. Those are the fingerprints. All right, and this is the thickness of what they call grip skin. Grip skin is on your fingers, your toes, your feet, and underneath, up inside, we found a artery and took the blood out of that. Well, you know, it's not blood. It's not wet blood. Although, I got to be honest with you, I had stuff that just blood leached right out of it. I get blood all the time. Here, let me show you something. Anybody tells you they can't get blood out of a rock, they're insane. That's a rock. That is blood coming out of a bone foramen. And here it is when I took the scab. That's what they call fibrin, which is blood clotting fiber. And underneath that is the vein and the artery, and here they are right here. Right, here's the vein and there's the artery. The artery is where you get the red and the vein is where you get the black. You see that? I showed you that lung that we had tested. This one I didn't bother having tested. It poured blood out of it. I mean, literally leaked on my counter. Every one of these little red spots had a ball of blood hanging off it. All right. What it is what it is, and you know, really, it's very, very distressing at this point. I can't let it go, and you can't let it go. If you do, I don't know what to say. You know, to just dismiss reality because it's an uncomfortable reality, that's, to me, that's uncomfortable. Now, that might be comfortable for you, because you might be perfectly happy, deluded. All right? It's initials, they call that, PhD. And they are the ones that absolutely refuse to engage. 100% refuse to engage about things like this. It means nothing to people that are teaching you. Very distressing. I hate to get like this, and every single time at the end, I can't stop myself. This has been years. It's been almost 10 years now. Having absolute, undeniable proof and being dismissed and being really demeaned and denigrated, and really I had a hell of a time with my own family and my wife and everybody, because you go against anybody and everybody treats you like a damn fool. Everybody treats you like a fool. They throw you in a soup. Well, I don't care. I found a way to swim inside that soup, and at this point I feel powerful.